events, landfill tours, public relations, and networking with like-minded community organizations. She has a degree in community health education from Central Washington University and experience in environmental advocacy, community health education, and public education and social services. So we are very pleased to have her here today. Marci, you're on. Welcome.
Voila. Now, why do I see myself in the middle? This is not a good start.
You just need to share your screen.
Okay.
And then you should see your.
Let me get this. Let's see. Here we go.
And
we practiced and everything.
It's going to work. I'm confident of it. You see the share screen at the bottom?
Yeah, I do, but it went back to what it did before where it's showing me my okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start that. I'll be able to figure this out.
We're very patient people.
Thank God for that.
Very pleased that you're with us, so we can wait a minute.
Gosh darn it, where the heck did it go? I don't know why it won't let me
I think we just need to open your PowerPoint.
Okay, I did that one, and then sorry, y'all. Okay. I didn't Zoom a lot. I know people did over the pandemic, but at the landfill, we didn't. Oh my goodness, I cannot believe it will not let me.
It's rebooting, recycling.
Son of a biscuit. So if I so I have it up, but you can't see it, right?
Now you need to share your screen.
I do. I have hit share screen
At the bottom.
And when I hit share screen, so I'm hitting the screen thing that says share screen, it shows me like my desktop and my iPhone, and it shows me everything, but not my. I'm gonna go this way. I'm just gonna see if I can navigate this way.
Okay, I would go out.
Oh, there we go. It's doing something.
Now you're seeing you're seeing all my files. You're gonna see my dogs. You're gonna see. Yeah. Sorry, y'all.
We're confident this is gonna work.
Yeah, we're gonna go the long way.
Okay.
We're not looking.
Oh, it's, yeah, trust me, it's nothing exciting in here. So I gotta go to PowerPoint. There we go.
We're gonna get there. I can see it.
Okay, hooray.
Hey.
We took the scenic route, but we got there.
Yeah.
You see it, right?
But it's not open yet. You have to
Okay.
double click on it.
Do you see it?
We don't see it big. You haven't double clicked on it.
I did double click on
It
it.
might be underneath that. You know what I mean?
So you don't see any of it.
We
No.
see your screen, but we don't see it big.
We see that.
You see
We see all of your PowerPoints.
You see all of my PowerPoints. Okay, that's not good.
And now you need to open the PowerPoint you want to show us.
And I do. I'm clicking on that one, and it says it's opening.
Okay.
And it opens. So I see it. I'm going to hit stop share, and then I'm going to hit share again.
Okay.
Now do you see it?
There
Yes.
it is.
Now you need to just start it. Now we see it.
Good gravy. Do
Yay.
something before it stops. Okay, start. Thank you guys. Sorry.
All right. There we
Now
are.
you can see it, everything?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to just do a brief overview about kind of recycling and reducing and reusing in Yakima County. And so I'm gonna try to go a little bit fast for the folks who have to go, and then you just tell me afterwards if you have any questions. So typically the way we define garbage is anything that cannot be recycled or reused. So each one of us produces about 5 pounds a day of garbage. So what comes into the landfill every day? We get 720 tons of garbage in the landfill, or you can convert that to pounds. So 440,000 pounds. So 50% of what comes into the landfill is actually recyclable. So it's not garbage at all. So as a recycling coordinator, that's my job, is to really try to encourage people to divert things that are not actual garbage. So let's talk a little bit about recycling, because I know people, have a lot of questions about recycling. So in Yakima County, these are the things that you can recycle. You can recycle plastic bottles, tin, which is actually steel cans, paper, cardboard, aluminum cans, and yard waste, in curbside recycling. So if you don't have curbside recycling, you can use drop-off recycling. This is a gentleman using our recycle bins here. But you have to sort those materials if you go to a drop-off recycler, and there is no drop-off recycling for plastic at this time, unless it's plastic bags, and that's at grocery stores. You can recycle those. If you have access to curbside, and it's not us, we do not haul garbage or do recycling in, pickup. It would be through Yakima waste systems, but it is really convenient and actually the only way that you can recycle plastic. So you don't have to sort it, and you don't have to store it in your garage or wherever you've been storing it, and you don't have to waste your gas driving it to a recycling center. And we've had curbside recycling in Yakima for 30 years. So what can you recycle in curbside? So you'll see milk jugs and plastic bottles on the yes area. And you can also do like shampoo bottles, detergent bottles, anything that has a neck smaller than a base. And that's because it is blow molded plastic. And so that's the type of plastic they want to take. Everybody wants to tell me about the numbers on the bottom of their containers. And it's not about numbers. It's about the shape for our recycling system in Yakima. So this is a little bit long, but most cities collect plastics 1 and 2, and that's milk jugs is 2 and bottled water is 1. And those are the blow molded type of plastic. And the other types of plastics, 3 through 7, are often injection molding, and they have additives and different things. They melt at different temperatures. So they're a contaminant for the blow molded plastic that we collect. So the other type of plastic, stamp molding or injection molding, is not as marketable as the blow molded plastic. So this is, I think, interesting, because every 60 seconds, this is what comes into our landfill: 200 pounds of paper, 100 pounds of cardboard, 40 pounds of plastic, 140 pounds of organics, and 20 pounds of aluminum. So those are the things every 60 seconds that come in that were not recycled. All of those are recycled commodities, but they were not recycled. That's what I'm talking about, trying to divert out of our landfill. So yard waste, which is your leaves and your grass clippings and all of that stuff, causes methane in the landfill. And methane is at least 20 times more powerful as a greenhouse gas as carbon dioxide. So a lot of people talk about their carbon footprint, but they don't really realize that they have a methane footprint. And landfills are huge producers of methane. So we especially don't want your yard waste or your organic material because of the methane. We're an unlined landfill. We do not have a methane collection system. Modern landfills do. And that gas can actually be used to run their forklifts and all kinds of different things. But our landfill was built in 1968, and it does not have that collection system. So we don't have a commercial composter we have one that's in the lower valley that that we used to work with, but we had to stop taking our yard waste to them because of apple codling moths. So now we just have the chipped yard waste. But if you don't have yard waste service, you know, we encourage composting. It's literally just a mixture of green things and brown things, which is dry things and moist things. And then you mix it together in about a 3-foot pile. That's kind of an ideal size or larger. And then you stir it, and that makes a great amendment for your soil. It also has nutrients in it, and it also adds moisture because we are an arid design, or we are an arid area. So that's good for our garden. Event recycling. A lot of people don't realize that if you have an event that's public, that's open, and you are serving any beverage with in a plastic bottle or an aluminum can, you're actually required by state law to provide recycling at your event. Our office has these recycle bins. The one on the left-hand side there, those are at the fair, and so we've given them to the fair for their permanent use. But anybody can come and borrow our recycle bins and recycle through us if you're interested in that. So hazardous waste, everybody has hazardous waste at their house, and they may not know that we have a facility that is specifically designed to deal with hazardous waste. Not every community has this. We're really lucky to have a hazardous waste facility here. So all the things that we take for free are the compact fluorescents, you know, cleaners, pesticides, paint and stain, batteries, all kinds of fuel and oil, antifreeze and mercury containing things like thermometers and things like that. So it's absolutely free for you to bring those items to our hazardous waste facility. You don't have to make an appointment. They're open whenever the landfill is open, which is 7 days a week, and here at Terrace Heights. And they also have a ready to reuse shelf before I go on to electronics. So if you have a painting project, or you need some slug killer, or you need some, you know, weed fertilizer or garden fertilizer or weed killer, you can come get that at the hazardous waste facility at no cost to you. All it is it's products that our staff have determined to be in the original container, more than 50% full and usable. So they put it out on a shelf, and people come and shop that shelf all the time for free. So electronic recycling. So I don't know if you guys are realize, but Washington State is an electronic recycling state. So you can bring your computers and your laptops and your tablets and all of that stuff free to recycle at several locations in Yakima County. And Goodwill and Sela is one of them. Well, actually all the Goodwills, but I usually tell people, if you have a big item, like a huge TV screen, to go to the Goodwill because they're the hub for all of Yakima County. So they don't care if it works or not. They get paid by the pound for those electronic items. So they want your electronics working or not. They're not going to resell them. They're going to recycle them. They're going to recover all of these heavy metals and everything that's in them, and make sure that it's the rest is safe for disposal. So 3 main things: reduce, reuse, recycle, right? Everybody knows that. And I always tell people reducing is first for a reason, recycling is last, because recycling takes energy. Reducing doesn't take any energy. If you want to reduce your use of plastic bags, you can bring a reusable bag, you know, or if you want to reuse something, you know, that takes a little more energy, but not quite as much. But recycling, you have to drive that to the recycling center, then that gets, you know, bulked there. Then that usually goes to the markets in Seattle, because we don't have any end users here. And then they sort it out, and then it gets chipped up, and then it gets melted down again, and then finally goes to an end user who's going to make something out of it. So recycling is not the panacea, and we're not going to recycle our way out of the situation that we have, that we're in now in this environment, because there was so much new products being invented, like Keurig cups and different things that we don't have the ability to recycle. So as far as reducing, I don't know if you've noticed that you see those bananas that are in packaging. I don't know what's going on with our society, but we love to just package stuff, and all of that packaging is not recyclable. So if you can avoid the unnecessary packaging, that's great. And I always tell people, I love Costco, I shop at Costco, but I don't buy apples from Costco because their apples come in that plastic clamshell that I know I can't recycle. And we live in the fruit bowl of the nation, so I can go get apples anywhere. And so I choose to get them somewhere that I don't have to have that packaging. The other thing is to just buy what you need, and don't buy disposable things. And then you can sign up to get off junk mail lists, which that is a great thing that can save you a lot of stuff that's coming into your mailbox and straight into the recycle bin or the garbage. So reusing, I have this bag, that's actually my bag, that homegrown layer. I have a friend who makes bags out of feed bags. It's really fun. So you can repurpose things and upcycle them into something else, or you can repair items that need repairing. I know a lot of young people don't repair, things. If it's broken, they just toss it. So a lot of communities are having repair cafes, trying to teach young people or people that don't have experience in repairing something, how to fix something instead of throwing it away. And then there's in other communities, they have borrowing libraries for tools and toys and all kinds of things that people are sharing, so that you don't have to buy something that you don't, or that you're not going to use very often. And then of course, give things to charity or sell them. And then I keep reusable food containers in my car. When I go to El Porton, it's always too much food, and I don't want that plastic clamshell thing, so that I run out in my car, fully embarrass my husband by bringing in my own Tupperware and loading up my food into my Tupperware. But I can wash my Tupperware and use it again. Reusable bags, as you know, our state enacted a plastic bag fee. And so the bad thing about plastic bags is that each one of us uses 500 bags a year, and very few of those get recycled. And plastic is a material that was designed to last forever, but it's terrible that they make disposable items out of something that's designed to last forever. Because even if it breaks down, it's just smaller and smaller pieces, but it never goes away. This is our bag monster. If you've ever seen her at events, this is her at the fair riding the Sandola. She wears an outfit of 500 bags because that's a visual of how many bags each one of us uses. And she gets a lot of attention. And so reusable cups, if you have those in your car, you can bring them to a lot of places, even give you a discount, for bringing your own cup if you're going to get a coffee at Starbucks or that kind of thing. But, even just one coffee, I know people who get a coffee a day, and I mean, that really adds up over a year, how many cups and lids and straws and stuff that you use. So recycling, you can sign up for curbside recycling if it's available in your area. Obviously, you can do a recycling program at work or church and compost your organic waste. And then we, as the government, we are actually required, if we're buying a giveaway or something that we're going to use for outreach and education, we're required to buy things with recycled content. So I now, just as a habit, look for things that have recycled content. I wanted to buy a front door mat, and there was one right there at Fred Meyer that said made of used tires, and then there was another one that was exactly the same that wasn't. So I said used tires it is, because I know that helps complete the loop of the recycling. Okay, so I went really fast because I wanted to see if anybody had any questions. So that's the end of the PowerPoint. So I'm gonna hit stop share.
Great. Then good. Okay, Linda, unmute yourself, Linda.
everything you just told us was absolutely perfect to know. And I don't understand why. I think I'm somewhat intelligent. Why is this never showing up in the newspaper or on television or through magazines? Why are we not trying to teach people this and remind them daily of just pick one and repeat it every hour on the hour, or I mean, to get the word out and to get into the heads of people.
Yeah. Well, we do, I'm the only educator here, but I do go to outreach and education events. I speak at organizations and schools. I gave a landfill tour this week. But yeah, the problem is this is having doing this for 16 years. This is what I wish. In Victoria, in British Columbia, they have standardized recycling. So no matter where you live in British Columbia, the recycling is all the same. The commodities that they collect are all the same. They have, so that nobody is confused about what is recyclable. Because think about it, if you live in Seattle, there's different things that can be recycled than if you live here. Or if you live in Portland, or even if you live in Tri-Cities, I get calls every week from people who have moved and they're like, well, I don't know what you can recycle. And it is confusing. It's confusing for us too, because it gets changed. China used to be, we relied a lot on China to take our recyclables. All of us states on the West Coast, when China was coming over with their ships full of stuff that we bought, they would backhaul all of our recyclable commodities because they needed that as feedstock for the stuff that they were making. So what ended up happening was they didn't really have the infrastructure to deal with. They kind of became the landfill for the world because we weren't the only ones that were sending our stuff to China. And there was a movie that came out that showed little kids like sitting in garbage, sorting garbage out, and that embarrassed China big time because there was a big backlash about that. And so then they just cut us off and said, you're not sending us clean commodities, which we were not. We were sending them garbage because that's what people put in our recycle bins. And so that turned recycling completely upside down. And for a year and a half, people like landfills and recyclers were throwing recyclables away because there was nowhere for them to go. So the example I always give about end markets is we have one end user in Yakima. Do you guys know who it is? It's Michelson's Packaging. They make all the apple packing trays, for all the boxes of apples everywhere. And they take recycled paper, and recycled paper is one of the most common commodities that ends up in a landfill. So when we talk to them about recycled paper, we don't recycle enough recycled paper or give them enough recycled paper from our recycle bins. They have to import paper from other areas because we cannot provide them with enough recycled paper for them to do that, or paper stock. So if we can't keep Michelson's, in paper, we certainly are not going to be able to attract a business that needs aluminum or that wants to deal with plastic or that wants to deal with any of the other commodities, because paper and cardboard are so common, and that's the things that Michelson's collects. So it's complicated. When you're inland like we are, almost all the commodities are going to Seattle or Portland, so that's why that's complicated. And when I first started here, I was like, we should recycle everything all the time. And now I kind of get that there's a lot of moving parts to how it really works. Maybe I'm a little jaded now after 16 years. I don't know.
Marci,
Yes.
some of us have a group where we're reading about climate change and talking about a lot of issues related. And one thing we've all noticed is when we're on walks in our neighborhoods, we go by garbage things with tons of cardboard in them. It's really frustrating. Is there any way that we could that when people get their bill, they could be told again, on a regular basis, monthly basis, this is where you recycle cardboard. I mean, especially with cardboard and paper, if starting with that, if Michelson's is an end place, could there be a kind of a campaign from the city, from the county, but I mean, and then other groups could cooperate with that somehow and try to get really focus on that. I don't know. Is there some way to coordinate or not?
I hear what you're saying. We actually don't have any garbage trucks here at the county, and we don't have any recycling trucks. We're not involved in transport of garbage or recyclables.
Okay.
That's Yakima Waste Systems, Basin Disposal, the city of Yakima. Those are all the garbage contractors here. So it would be, I mean, could you get something in your bill from the garbage? Sure. I mean, but you would have to coordinate with all of those organizations.
Okay.
In other areas, like in Seattle, when you move in, you can't just sign up for garbage service in Seattle. You have to get recycling and garbage and even organics. A lot of times they do collection for organics. So that's embedded in their bill. So what I hear all the time is people come to me and say, I just moved here from Seattle or Portland, and recycling was free where I lived.
Yeah.
And I say, no, it wasn't. It was included in your bill. So you paid for it whether you used it or not. In Yakima, it's a la carte. So you can sign up for yard waste collection separate, and sign up for recycling collection, and sign up for garbage collection. And those are all potentially 3 different bills, because the city of if you have a city of Yakima for garbage, and you have Yakima Waste Systems for recycling, and you might have if you have Yakima Waste Systems for recycling, you probably have Yakima Waste Systems for garbage. But it is complicated. If we wanted to do kind of what you're talking about, it would be mandatory recycling. So that would be going to the county commissioners and saying, look, we want mandatory recycling. And this is already happening in the city of Selah. Does anybody live within the city of Selah? So you get recycling included with your garbage service. It happens in Union Gap. And so there are communities that are doing it. Zillah is giving this a try. So rather than piecemealing all of that, I mean, you could just say it's a countywide ordinance that, we want mandatory recycling. The problem is people don't want that. Will make your bill go up, because the recycling for me, I think it costs I want to say $10 a month, and it might be a little bit more than that, and they bill you every other month. So, and then then I get the bill for my garbage as well. So but anyway, that will make your bill go up because you're paying for a new service. But that's an idea that has been tossed around a lot. People don't like anything that has mandatory in the front of it. They just typically kind of balk about that. Like, I don't want to be mandated to do anything. But
Thanks.
yeah.
What
Yeah.
happened to glass? They used to, and I know basically lots and lots of places have gone away from glass. What was the problem? Was that China totally, or are there other things?
Well, glass, when everything used to come in glass, that's really the options that we had. And then they discovered that plastic is lighter weight and more durable. You don't drop a jar of mayonnaise and have the mayonnaise go all over the place if you're a grocery store, like it used to. And so being lighter weight means they could save money on fuel for moving it around, those commodities around. So, I mean, yes, there are benefits to plastic, but it was just really a business decision. All those businesses said, we're going to save money and we're going to go with plastic. It's cheaper, it's lighter weight, blah, blah, blah. Well, glass. So the glass that's actually remaining is actually really little. People are always surprised by this, and I think they don't believe me, but it's less than 2%. We're required to do a waste study of our garbage. So we have to do that every so often. And the last waste characterization study found that glass was less than 2%. So it's less than, it's right there with baby disposable diapers. It's a very small part of our waste stream. And the thing about glass is it's inert. So it's silica. It doesn't contribute anything negative to our environment, and it's a very small percentage. If you wanted to collect glass, if we collected glass all year long at the landfill, that would equal 1 trip to a glass recycler, either in Portland or Seattle. So, and it doesn't create the methane like organics and all that stuff. So we have never really focused on glass because it's almost a greenwashing thing with me. If I take that glass from you to make you feel better, it's not really doing a huge amount for our environment to do that. There is a group in Yakima, and they collect glass and they take it to Ellensburg, where they have a glass crusher, and then they crush glass. So that diverts it out of the waste stream, but it's not recycling because it's going from glass to back to basically sand or crushed glass. So I know there was something. Oh, as far as reusing glass, this is what I would really like to see in Yakima, because we have all these wineries and all these breweries here, and I get asked a lot about glass. In Oregon, if you Google this, there's a consortium in Oregon of breweries that have decided that they want to rebottle beer. Remember the good old days when we used to get milk on the front porch and it had, in a bottle that you stuck back and they took it back? Well, other countries do this, like Mexico, they wash their bottles and rebottle. So 2 things that you have to do is you have to get a bottle that is rewashable, and that is a thicker glass, a more durable glass than what our typical beer and wine is served in now. But in Oregon, they went with the thicker glass bottles and they are washing them. This isn't statewide or anything. This is a small kind of almost like a little group that has decided to do that. So I think it would be lovely if breweries and wineries would, kind of look into that as a possibility. You can go to a brewery and get a growler, a growler that's reusable, and bring it back and have it refilled. And so I think it's just would be another option for people if they wanted to bring back their bottles. We, as Americans, we have to be okay with scratches on our bottles, with things not being perfect. We're not always good about that. So we have to just say, this is a priority for me. If this glass has a little scratch on it, I'm okay with that. So that's my take on glass. But yeah.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Other questions? Yeah, Diane.
Yeah, so I'm still trying to figure out the plastic thing a little bit. So, well, number one, you said you couldn't drop off plastic, but you can't drop that off at the landfill, but you actually can drop the plastic off at Yakima Waste. So if you Yakima
True. That is
Waste
true.
Okay, so yeah, so that's one thing, but
Good
so
clarification.
Yakima Waste will take the plastic, but the landfill won't. So do you know? So what does Yakima Waste do with the plastic? Do you know? Or
So yeah, Yakima Waste is our curbside recycler in Yakima County. And so they're a part of Waste Connections, which is a big, huge organization on the west side. And so they take all of that and bale it and ship it. So none of it stays here. So you're right. That is a drop-off location, literally at where the recycling curbside recycling business is, and that's in Terrace Heights. So you're absolutely right. You can take plastic bottles only to or milk jugs to Yakima Waste Systems. No other kind of plastic. No tubs, no yogurt, nothing.
no, but I thought their sign said 1 or 2, that 1 and 2 that you said people ask you about, and it doesn't matter, but then on your slide you had 1s and 2s, so
Yeah,
I got really confused.
typically 1s and 2s are water bottles and milk jugs. So yes, that's correct. But if you really get into looking at numbers, then people will focus on the numbers and not the shape. And it really is about the shape for our recycling in Yakima County, not state, not other places in the state. But that's the most valuable type of plastic. So that's the type they take.
So like the laundry detergents, I think are twos or something.
Yeah, and they're a bottle.
They're a bottle. Okay.
That's considered a bottle.
And then I was still trying to figure out organics too. I mean, with organics, there's the yard waste, but then there's also the food. Right?
Yes.
And you talked about organics being recycled, but then the yard waste, you said you just grind up or something. So is it still releasing methane? I mean, you're not composting it.
We are not composting it, and anybody in Yakima can come and pick up our yard waste for free. So you can bring your pickup and we grind all that yard waste into what we call chipped yard waste. And we use it as ground cover here around our office, and we get volunteer pumpkins and sunflower seeds. We get all kinds of things that grow out of it because it's not composted. So it's just chipped yard waste. So we used to have a relationship with a composter in the Lower Valley who would take our excess chipped yard waste that people didn't come pick up, and they would compost it. And actually they even backhauled some compost, and we could sell compost even though we weren't in the business to sell compost. But that was shut down by the Washington State Department of Agriculture because of codling moth. So basically we were taking chipped yard waste from a quarantine area to a non-quarantine area, and you can't cross those boundaries with organics. So in that case, and this is just the worst thing about that's happening right now, is in that case, people that are doing yard waste and bringing it in here, it is going into the landfill. If it doesn't go out, if someone hasn't picked it up, then it's used as alternative daily cover at the landfill.
So when my neighbor takes his tree limbs or leaves, that's where they go, versus when they come and pick it up in my bin, it gets
Goes
ground
here
up.
too.
Sorry,
It comes here too.
and
So our yard
chopped
waste,
up or put into where all the trash is. That's what I'm still trying to think.
Mhm.
so our yard waste goes into the trash? Really?
Yeah, I would love to, we even hired a scientist to come over to try to find a codling moth larvae. I think I'm saying that, I think that's the right vermin. I'm having a brain fart right now. I used to have it. But anyway, and they couldn't find them. They couldn't find any living codling moth in our yard waste. And they still wouldn't let us send it to the composter.
But tell me again what you said about you chip some of it?
So if you come in here with your yard waste, like you've taken out bushes or your grass clippings or whatever, we grind it here. So it looks like compost from a distance. It's kind of a brown, chipped up everything.
But that's not what happens to our yard waste.
Yes.
When we,
It's my understanding that Yakima, that yard waste collection comes through us and gets ground. Hang on just 1 second.
That's confusing.
I think she said that if it doesn't get picked up by people to be used as mulch, then it goes into the landfill.
Okay, if we don't,
That breaks down, doesn't it? I mean, the yard waste,
That's what she said, that they try to use it, people can come get it. And if it doesn't, then it goes to the thing.
but it's still in the landfill, it breaks down.
and that's
Still
methane.
methane.
Does it release methane or
It does.
Yeah,
That's
carbon?
really discouraging. I didn't know that. Ooh. Huh.
Okay, I wanted to double check that with my coworker. And so yes, the answer is the bad news. So the yard waste collection at this point goes into the garbage.
Okay. But,
And-
but if,
and
And that's not our doing. That is Washington State Department of Agriculture.
So that's really good to know, but it, like, and a lot of this comes to, what I want to do for the environment, which is what I can
Right.
do. But if it's not going to do any good, then I don't want to be
I
paying
get it.
$18 more when I should, the yard waste actually costs a lot. I could just get a little
Yeah.
bit bigger.
I'm not a
Waste container.
proponent of greenwashing anything. I tell people exactly the way it is. But I just wanted to make sure
Yeah.
because I know the customers that bring in yard waste. I know what happens to that. But I wanted to make sure that the commercial trucks that come in, it's the same and it is the same.
That sort of makes sense because I mean, I pay for the yard waste and they forget to pick it up every other time practically. And they said, well, the regular garbage guy will just pick it up. And I'm like, well, that's not what I wanted, but
Well, and my coworker reminded me or helped me be more specific that a lot of times even yard waste customers are throwing things that they're not supposed to throw in their yard waste. So that's, if there's a yard waste truck that has contaminants in it, they're throwing things like, paper or cardboard, which in their head, maybe they think that should be able to be, chipped up, but that's a contaminant for our yard waste. So if they have a load that is contaminated, if the driver looks at it and says, this is not going to be acceptable for the grinder, then they take it straight to the face of the landfill.
so you
Okay. So they
still
don't-
grind some of it though? You still grind some, I guess I'm still confused. You still grind some of it. the
We
yard
grind
waste.
everything that you as a self hauler brings in.
Okay,
If you're paying for garbage service, remember, we're not affiliated with them. So they make a call and say, this load is contaminated. So it's going to go straight to the face. We're not even going to grind it because it can't go through the grinder.
but
and that's
some,
every load they bring in, they say, does Yakima Waste ever bring a yard waste truck in that gets ground up?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
and then to get Marci, explain this. We think you said that if people come and get that, then it's used for compost, but or in yards. But if it's left there, you eventually put it back into the landfill. Is that
That's
correct?
exactly right.
That's what Judy heard. Okay, so we can, if we could either, if we're doing yard waste, we could either figure out how to compost that ourselves, or we could go more often and take the ground stuff from you, and that would be a benefit, correct?
Absolutely. We would love it if everybody took the chipped yard waste. That would be awesome.
So when the
And-
guys come in and trim all your bushes and they throw all that stuff in their truck and they say they're going to the dump, that stuff would get chipped.
Yep,
Okay,
it does. We have all the time that's happening.
Yeah.
When I gave the landfill tour this week, there was yard service people over there, taking their stuff and leaving it.
Now, I was asked to ask you a question by someone who couldn't be here about how long the Terrace Heights landfill will last, and how to delay that with aggressive recycling. And you've sort of addressed that, right? You've told us that, but you haven't. You've told us that we could save almost 50% of the landfill if everyone recycled better. But
Yes.
how long is it likely to last? How long does a landfill last, or how long is this one's?
Well, it has changed every year since I've been here. How long? Because believe it or not, garbage fluctuates with the economy. I mean, you would think garbage is garbage, but like for instance, during during COVID, when everybody was locked down, the whole world decided to clean out their closets and their garages. That was just and paint evidently the paint stores were running out too. So we were staying home, cleaning and painting our stuff. And the bad part of that was none of the thrift shops were open. So Goodwill wasn't taking anything. I mean, back in the early days of COVID, we didn't know, did it live on the surface? Can we touch it? Is it okay? Everybody was panicked. So they were just diverted. So all the thrift shops were closed, and that meant everything that people would have normally donated, they threw out. So we had record-breaking days at the landfill. We had cars clear down Rosa Hill Drive we had to tell the media and get on social media and say, please don't come to the landfill. You know, you're probably not going to get through. I mean, it was crazy days. But so garbage does fluctuate. And now that inflation's high, economy's kind of getting a little dicey, people are not throwing out the stuff that they would donate. We're seeing less stuff that's getting tossed out that they should have donated because they're donating it or they're selling it. So it does change. So with all that saying, back to your question, how many years until the landfill closes? It could be 8 years, it could be 15 years. But our job from our end, the technology is getting better and better about how we compact garbage. So we have better technology that is able to make the garbage more compact, which leaves room for that 720 tons that we're going to get the next day. Not only that, but this is weird, but you have to trust me, it's a good thing. 80% of what comes into the hazardous waste facility is latex paint. People buy big, huge amounts of paint because they think they need that much, and then they don't need it. And so they bring it to the hazardous waste facility. And so we have a technology here that takes latex paint and mixes it with fibers, and they use that as an alternative daily cover rather than soil or the chipped yard waste. I should have, because I have a piece of it. I went out to the landfill and pulled a piece off because it's it's latex, so it looks like a gray lumpy pancake. But the benefit of that is your cover material is now this big instead of with dirt would be this big. So that is extending the life of our landfill because we're compacting more and we're using an alternative daily cover that is non-toxic. Dried latex paint is completely non-toxic and takes up less space in the landfill, and also reuses a lot of paint that we would have had to bulk, which means they put all together in big barrels and ship off to be recycled. So we're doing what we can to extend the life of our landfill, because we know that once we go to the haul, once our landfill here at Terrace Heights is like 450 acres, and our landfill at Shane in Zilla is like 700 acres. So we have another landfill, but we're going to have to pay for the hauling of people bringing their garbage here to our transfer station, us loading it up in trucks and taking it to Shane. So rates will go up when we go to the haul, when this place closes.
So
And then
what happens?
Oh, go ahead. Sorry. Who is
So
talking?
what happens when a landfill is full? What happens to it?
So
Is it
yeah, that's a good question. We're required to monitor the landfill because we can contaminate wells around us. We can have we have to always monitor our neighbors' wells. We have to make sure that everything is stable. But we've already been contacted by a solar farm who is interested in using our closed landfill as a solar array. So they would lease the land from us. So that's one idea that may happen to Terrace Heights landfill after it's closed. We have some time to really sort that out. But yes, but the management here and everyone here really wants to do everything they can to make sure that we're environmentally right, that we're leaving it as good as we can.
Yeah, I've got a question. In terms of the large fruit companies, and the hop companies and so forth here in the valley that, produce a tremendous amount of organic material. What happens to that stuff? What rules are in place that they have to follow, when it comes to disposing of, say, the slugs left over from mint processing, what are the rules in place for that?
So we can take organics here, like sometimes we get it, we had a apple warehouse where they had a fire and the fruit wasn't burned, but it was smoke damage, so they brought us the fruit. If they call first and there's nothing really wrong with it, sometimes they'll say, well, it's past its good by date. You know, I'll say maybe talk to a pig farm, you know, see if they can use it. I mean, we do our best to try to divert as much as we can. But if they're in the lower valley, the composter that we used to divert our yard waste was Natural Selection Farms in the lower valley. So if they're a lower valley farmer, Natural Selections takes a lot of their waste from hop growers and all kinds of different farms down there, because that's feedstock for them. They need that to create their compost. So if they're lower valley, definitely head out to Natural Selections and connect up with them. But if they're upper valley and they, you know, if they can still transport it to the lower valley, but they just can't bring it here and have us grind it and us transport it, because that would be, you know, violating the USDA rules. So does that make sense? Did that answer your question, sort of?
Yeah, I'm just, you know, I just know that they produce a tremendous amount of waste, you know, and I'm just wondering if some of that, is it handled responsibly, or is it an issue? But it sounds like you're taking care of it, I guess.
Well, I mean, it is an issue, and I mean, we would love it if no organics, you know, came in here. But I mean, there are times where it just, they have to have a place for it to go. The one thing we can't take is, you know, juice or any liquid or anything like that. That we are an unlined landfill, and we're not allowed to take liquids of any kind. So that's one of the things we ask is if, you know, if it's liquid organics, we can't take it.
Yeah, so the compost that you grind up from, say, yard materials and so forth, you say that's suitable for composting in a person's yard?
Absolutely. It's
Does
the
it look-
beginnings of backyard. It's the beginnings of compost. And when I do a tour with the kids, we always take our compost thermometers out there, and it's 140 degrees, you know, year round, maybe more. Because once you grind all that organic material, you've provided all that surface area for microorganisms to get in there and really start breaking it down. And so that's happening, even though we don't add water, we don't turn it, it's still breaking down, you know, it's still composting.
So you
It
can
doesn't-
work that into your soil and
Yes. If you ever wanted to come out and take a look here at our office, we have a display in our lobby that shows you the chipped yard waste and then the chipped wood waste that we have that we also sell, which is pallets that gets ground up. So that's just like wood chips. But you know, the wood chips we sell for, I think it's $10 a load. I could be wrong. I don't work at the scale house, so I don't know that one. But it's very inexpensive, and that is good for, well, people use it for hog fuel, which is to run machinery. We don't really recommend it for animal bedding because pallets have nails and staples, and even though we have a big magnet, it doesn't get all of that. So if you know, if there was a place you could use it where you would feel safe not to have if you found a staple or a nail once in a while.
is it suitable for ground cover, like in a flower bed, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, keeping in mind that you might find a staple or a nail, and the chipped yard waste, you won't get that because it's not made of pallets. It's just evergreens, shrubs, branches, grass, leaves, that kind of thing. Corn, we're getting a lot of corn stalks right now.
That's out at the main dump out by Terrace Heights?
Terrace Heights, yep. But they actually grind it at Shane too. Our grinder travels back and forth, so they have that in the lower valley as well.
Yeah.
So could trees be planted in a finished place? Like, I mean, once the landfill is full, could it be turned into a little forest or?
A park.
Well, you know, it's not really soil. It's,
Oh,
when I tell kids, it's, when I do my landfill tour, I say it's a garbage lasagna. So it's 11 stories deep of garbage. So it's garbage and then a layer of cover material and garbage and a layer of cover material, 11 stories deep. So it's really not soil. It's, you know, at the very top, they might do 6 inches of soil. You know, when they make a landfill, they dig out the hillside and then they replace that with garbage, you know, so it's, you know, the end result is you're going to look at the hill and it's going to look the same, but it's all garbage.
How do you keep the odor out of it? Do you treat it somehow or?
Well, that we're required by the health department to cover garbage every night, not only for the smell, but for keeping the plastic bags from flying all the way around and keeping rats out of vectors out of the landfill. So every night we cover the landfill. So that happens every day. But still, those plastic bags are the worst, you guys. Just please don't bring us any plastic bags. They don't like to be buried. It's windy a lot out here at Terrace Heights, and they fly into the trees. We have litter fences. They stick to the litter fences. It's just, plastic bags are just the worst for a landfill. So take them to I know what I was going to tell you. You know that you take your plastic bags back to the grocery store, right? To recycle them. So did you know that 7 out of 10 of those plastic bags get made into Trex decking? So that composite decking, like Trex and other brand names, has 2 ingredients, and it's plastic film and sawdust. So it's a really green material because both of those things probably would have ended up in the landfill. And so the one thing I tell people, even if you don't use plastic bags, if you get an Amazon package and you have those pillows that come in it, you pop those pillows and they'll take those at the grocery store. The overwrap on your toilet paper, the plastic overwrap on your paper towels, all of that can go into those collection bins at the front of the grocery stores, and it gets turned into Trex. I know, right? Dry cleaning bags, clean bread bags, clean Ziploc bags. This is the rule. If it stretches and it's clean and it's film, it can go in there. And so we try to let people know, because that would cut a lot of film out of our landfill if you would. And what I do is I just start a bag at home, and when I get, you know, like Costco toilet paper, I just take that plastic thing off and stick it in there. You know, I just kind of constantly do that, but it can't be like shrink wrap or like the plastic covers off of a heated meal. They don't stretch, you know, so it has to be stretchy.
Marci,
Yes.
has there been any discussion of you working with this new sustainability committee of the city council? I mean, at the beginning, you talked about the fact that 50% of recycling could reduce by 50% what's happening. Has there been any talk of collaborating with them to do anything?
I haven't, and in the past, I mean, if it's a city group, I actually don't know that much about it, but county and city people I don't meet with a lot of city people. We kind of keep to ourselves. I really don't know why. That's a good question.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay.
I have a question again about could you clarify again the distinction between garbage, yard waste, and the recyclables? I have all 3, but I heard you say that actually the yard waste could just go into the garbage, right? Isn't that what you said? I mean, they go to the same place, right?
The yard waste comes here to Terrace Heights landfill and it gets ground, and people could take that as chipped yard waste. So I don't want to say that every time you fill your yard waste bin that it goes to the garbage, because I don't know. Because somebody could take a big load of chipped yard waste and then we don't have any for cover up at the landfill. I mean, that's entirely possible. But the volume of yard waste we get I mean, is because we can't take it to the composter, is, you know, a lot of yard waste gets into the landfill.
Yeah, so we're, I guess I need to look at my utilities bill a little closer, but we're charged separately for garbage and separately for yard waste, and then Yakima waste is a separate thing too, so. we
Right,
get- So the yard waste and the garbage are covered on the utilities bill, but they're two separate charges, is that right?
so,
And then
yeah.
Yakima waste comes as a separate bill.
so the way I understand it is you could get yard waste. So I'm not such an expert on what the other companies are doing. I mean, we're the landfill and we don't have trucks, so we don't,
Yeah.
but the way I understand it is Yakima Waste Systems is the only curbside recycler in Yakima County. So you definitely have to go through them to get curbside recycling. For yard waste, I almost think that's available through the city of Yakima and also Yakima Waste Systems. That one I'm not sure about. And then garbage could be Yakima Waste Systems, it could be Basin Disposal, and it could be City of Yakima. So there are 3 garbage haulers, I think 2 yard waste haulers, and 1 curbside recycling hauler, which is Yakima Waste.
Okay, thank you.
I know it is confusing, and other counties do it different, and so that's why people are always confused about garbage. It is confusing.
Well, we get two, we get the utilities bill, which has a, itemized thing, which I don't read close enough, I guess. And then I get a bill from Yakima Waste. So I get 2 bills. The utilities bill seems to include the garbage and the yard waste. And then my Yakima Waste bill is the bill for recycling.
And where do you live? Are you in the city?
On Chestnut,
Okay.
West Chestnut.
So yeah, the city of Yakima, I would think, is your garbage hauler in the city, because you're in the city.
Yes,
So the city of Yakima should be your garbage hauler. Yakima Waste should be your recycling
Yes.
hauler. And then if you have yard waste, I would think, since you're in the city, that would be the city doing your yard waste as well.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Marci, can you just say a few words about how the Rocky Top site is different from the landfill?
From what I understand, they're a C&D landfill, we call them, which is a construction and demolition landfill. So they are permitted to take things that are not as they can't take household garbage, so you can't bring your garbage container there, but you can take drywall or sheetrock or things of that nature to the DTG.
Okay.
And they're not a part of the county system.
And they're bringing truckloads of things from Seattle, also of the same kinds of things, to their fill, right?
That's what I understand. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, well, this has been educational. Do people have more questions?
Well, before everybody looks a little down in the mouth, and I get it, because because you want to hear the good news that everything's going great here and don't even worry about it. But I don't want you to leave feeling bad, because Washington State is one of the greenest states in our United States. We have programs called Extended Producer Responsibility Programs, EPR. And if you Google that, you will feel really good about the world, because extended producer responsibility is like, for instance, the electronic recycling program that we have. We were one of the very first states to get that. So they target, those extended producer responsibility programs target things that are toxic, which computers and TVs are. They target things that have a short life, which TVs and computers do. And then they say, hey, Dell and, Gateway and all of your computer and Apple, you sell X percentage of all the computers in Washington State. So you're going to pay for X percentage of its disposal. And you're going to make sure that that's a green way to do it. You're not sending it to a third world country where they're going to have to pollute their country. And so extended producer programs are catching on fire throughout the nation, but Washington, Oregon, and California were really spearheading this. And we actually got it or really started through Canada, because Canada does this. So there, remember I told you about British Columbia's program where they collect all the same stuff? Not only do they collect all the same stuff, but the manufacturers pay for it. So Coca-Cola says they sell, oh, Coca-Cola, you sell X percentage of the bottles in here in BC. You're going to pay for X percentage of the collection and the recycling of that stuff. So it's completely funded, which is beautiful, because right now in America, our commodities are like this, up and down. Paper might be really good, a few months, and then it can just crash overnight because supply and demand and prices and everything. But in Canada, it's always funded. They never have to worry about dropping something out of the recycling because it's funded by the producers, which is how it should be. So not only do we have electronics, but we have compact fluorescents that are funded that way. The Take It Back medicine programs, you guys know about that? That's funded through pharmaceutical companies. They're working on carpeting. They're working on a lot of different other products that they want the manufacturers to pay for that. They have to have some skin in the game. All this time, us taxpayers have paid for the end of life of their product. We have always absorbed it. And that means they could make the nastiest, most toxic thing ever and say, now you get to deal with it, landfills and taxpayers, because we made it and that's all our own responsibility. So it is a really good thing. So look into that. There's a group called Northwest Product Stewardship Council. They're super active in that. And Washington State has banned styrofoam. You just don't know it because it hasn't been implemented yet. We had our plastic bag ban. They're looking at all disposable serviceware being, banned. So for like forks and plastic, things like that. So Washington State is a good place to be for these kind of programs and this kind of thinking. Yakima is far away from end markets. That's why we don't have access, the same access as they do where their manufacturers are. But all in all, those statewide programs affect all of us. We have that because they worked hard to make that happen.
So could you tell us again what Michelson's, what is it again that they take? Is it strictly paper products that they take?
Paper and cardboard. They also take paperboard, which that's what a cereal box is. And paperboard is more closely related to paper than cardboard, because people don't realize paper has a limited recyclability. Those fibers get smaller and smaller and smaller, and the end of the road is an egg carton. Like if you ever put an egg carton in a bucket of water, I mean, it's pulp. but corrugated cardboard has a lot of fiber, good fiber in it. So that's usually has the best value as a commodity. So and aluminum can be recycled over and over. It doesn't affect it at all. Glass can be recycled over and over. It doesn't affect it at all. But plastic cannot be recycled over and over. So like most plastic bottles, I mean, if you have a polar, like looks like your vest is polar fleece. Is it polar fleece? That's made, yeah. So that's actually made of plastic bottles. So we didn't really have polar fleece before we had plastic bottles, because that is how they, a lot of plastic gets recycled into fiber, like stuffing or sleeping bags or pillows. I know it's weird to think plastic bottles go into pillows, but they do. And so, so my point is, not everything is recyclable for eternity, so we have to keep that in mind. The best thing we can do is reduce. you know, just reduce and don't buy things that are not durable, because everything eventually ends up in the landfill. Even if you recycle something 3 times, whatever that final product is at the end of its life, it's going to end up at the landfill. So we are the ultimate destination for everything. So the goal is to have less things, you know, and less toxic things and more recyclable things and more things made of recycled content. Even if something is plastic and it has recycled content, it's almost always not 100% recycled content, because they add fresh, you know, plastic in it to make it more pliable, or to, you know, whatever the desired effect is that they want for their product.
So I take it on your website, you know, there's a little more, you know, detailed explanation of the different plastics. You know, hard plastic versus the flimsy stuff, you know, the kinds of, you know, the number one and number two. I tend to get those mixed up. You know, the different styles, the different kinds of plastic, and what can be recycled and what can't be recycled.
Right. As I said, for plastics, it's basically one and two, which is milk jugs or water bottles and milk jugs, pop bottles and milk jugs, you know, that kind of thing. It has to be a bottle for county, Yakima County. Yeah. Hey, Linda.
What would it take to get the grocery stores here in Yakima to become like the small co-op grocery stores, where you buy a bottle of shampoo, and when you finish it, you take the bottle back to the store and fill it right there in the store? Or same thing with other items, where you just keep the original wrap and go back and just scoop or pour? Or why don't we have that? And how would we go about pushing for that?
You know, I've discovered it, like everything else in the world, everything is about money. And, and so it's going to be more expensive to have, refillable. I mean, those containers themselves are going to be more expensive, and you're going to pay to collect them and wash them and redistribute them. But in the end, it's going to be better for our environment. And if you want to Google another group that's super interesting, Google Loop, L-O-O-P, and they are doing exactly what you're talking about. So Procter & Gamble, I think, is one of the companies that's working with them for shampoo and different health and beauty products. But you can get at certain stores, you can get your favorite shampoo in a loop bottle, which is metal. And then you use it and then take it back. And it's almost like a deposit system. It's been a while since I've looked at it, but I just knew when I read about it, I thought this is cool, because this is exactly what people, I think, want. They don't want to feel like they have to throw everything away. You know, it should be like that. So there's another company called TerraCycle, which you should look into. They recycle the hard to recycle items like Capri Sun pouches, which if plastic is plastic like that is made of different kind of plastic all stuck together. So recyclers, that's a nightmare for recyclers. They're going to have to delaminate separate out all those different kind of plastics and get them into the right, you know, areas. So like Keurig cups, you know, the top, even a plastic bottle, the top is a different type of plastic than the actual bottle. You know, if you get into plastics that are conglomerated plastics, then that is really hard for recyclers to deal with. So it really is more than the grocery stores. What you're asking for recyclers to have a conversation with manufacturers. And that's exactly what needs to happen. If I'm making a product that I want to be able to recycle it, then I need to talk to a recycling organization, somebody who's actually a MRF, what we call a MRF, where they're taking the commodities and they're doing something with them, you know, selling them somewhere else, or they need to be in the loop. They need to be part of that conversation, because that might change a whole lot of products.
So you're saying that that might be more promising than trying to do mandatory county recycling, which is you think is not likely to happen, but companies might agree to do recycling with their own products. That's
Well,
more.
So statistically, or things like this. So you know how we have electronic recycling here?
Right.
And maybe in another state they don't. But Dell's not going to make a computer different for Washington State and then make a separate one different for the other states. They're just going to go, okay, this is the new standard now. We're going to make all of our computers like this, you know, or our packaging like this. So the key is to get more of that type of thing happening so that companies just change across the board and all of the states get benefits from our work, you know, our labor. And I think that has a lot of, that to me is the fertile ground, is extended producer responsibility programs, take it back programs where you'll actually, where you buy something, you should be able to drop it off there, you know, so that it can get back into the loop. It's just, we have to think about the whole picture and not just, I need you to take this out of my recycle bin, because where is it going to go and what's going to happen to it, you know?
Mhm.
And then more education on really, you know, I know people don't realize that plastic can't be recycled forever. You know, I mean, we just need to be, more forward about that, because I don't want you to think that, you know, that things are endlessly recyclable. Like I said, recycling is my least favorite option right now. It's reducing and reusing that I'm having the most comfort with, because we can control that. You and I can control our reducing and reusing. We can't really control the recycling. You know, I mean, we have very little control over the recycling. But
That's
At
helpful.
one point, I thought I
Marci-
heard or knew of Yakima having a co-op grocery alternative.
That's.
But I don't know what happened to it. It seemed like in 2014, when I moved back, I was hearing things about it, but it wasn't an actual place. There was an online kind of situation. I don't know how it really worked, but I mean, if something like that came about, Linda, kind of speaking to what you're saying, like going into a co-op. But I do notice that a lot of bigger brands or in between brands are using different materials. I mean, there is a big cry. People are, so I guess the more we voice and find ways to make our voice heard, maybe, you know.
you know,
I
I
just
agree
want
with
to,
you.
I want to just say, Marci, you have been amazing. Absolutely. You seem to know everything there is to know, and you explain it so well. Thank you.
Yeah.
No, I'm kind of I get in trouble because I'm just kind of a truth teller, and I can tell when people are just feeling, okay, I'm going to leave you with one other thing that's going to make you feel good. Young people are totally get this stuff. I mean, they do. And the thing that's happened in our lifetimes, I mean, I'm 4 years away from retiring, so I'm ready to join this group, okay, shortly. But the things that I've noticed is Airbnb has happened, right? You don't need to pay a hotel. Someone's going to offer you their house, okay? Lyft happened, okay? This is called sharing economy, and the young people are into it. They don't care if they own a house as much as we did. They're into sharing economy. They're into sharing a car, sharing a bike, sharing toys, sharing tools. And we have a little lending library here at the Terrace Heights landfill where we pull out Rubbermaids full of books that people throw away, and we put them in our little lending library and people take them, you know, and we're happy to do that. We wipe them down but my point is, the young people are going to be more environmentally aware of that. You can't just use everything up and throw it out. They get it. They understand it, and they're willing to not own things. Our generation is more like you went to Home Depot and you bought your tools. They're more like, hey, there's a lending library where I can rent a saw because I don't really need a chainsaw but once a year. So I'm just going to do it that way. We don't have a lending library, a tool lending library here, but in bigger cities they do. And I think it's a good idea and somebody should start it. But that's beside the point. But anyway, sharing economy is another thing you should just look into because it's happening, it's worldwide, and it's just even the bikes that you see all over in cities, you could just pick up a bike, GPS knows where that bike is, you could drop it off, you only used it for so many hours. And I mean, that's the kind of thing that is going to make huge gains over time, where we don't each have to have a bike. We can share a bike because we're not riding our bike all day long every day, that type of thing.
Okay.
So that should make you feel good too, I think.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Marci. This has been a very valuable time for us. We really appreciate your time.
Really good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Excellent.
I
Thank you.
think you're a great group. I
Yeah.
like your
Thanks
group
for
a lot.
everything you do. Thanks for everything you do day in and day out, Marci, for
Thank you.
all education.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Any-
We do partner with nonprofits like there's a teacher in Sela that teaches small engine repair. I think he's the only teacher left that teaches small engine repair. Anyway, when we find a lawnmower or a chainsaw and he wants to take it to his students and show them how it works and repair it. And he's just an awesome guy. And he lets those kids use the lawnmowers for the summer to make money for this. I mean, he's just those kind of people. So we partner with Kiwanis right now. We're doing a bike collection because they have a free bikes for kids program. So we're collecting bikes for Kiwanis, and all those folks fix them up and give them to kids that can't afford bikes. And we partner with master gardeners for their demonstration garden. If we find gardening related items, we can't have people come in as individuals and just give them stuff, but we can partner with nonprofits. And so we try to, seek out those type of relationships so that we feel like we're diverting things out of the landfill that people could use and value. Habitat for Humanity, we worked with them for their habitat store and that type of thing. So Union Gospel Mission, all that stuff. So
Do you have people who will come and pick that stuff up?
I do. Yeah. Kiwanis has a group that comes and picks it up.
I have an old lawnmower, which I'd be more than happy to
I'll have, you know what? Let me give you,
donate.
I can give you his
Give it to
number.
the guy.
If you here's my email.
Yeah.
It's Marci, MARCI .Venable, VENABLE, and then an @ symbol, and then CO, which stands for county, .wa.us. Can you imagine a more cumbersome email than that? That's about it.
Pretty good.
So it's
Yeah.
Marci Venable at co.wa.us.
Thank you very much.
And I'll give you his name. Yeah.
Okay, let me just
Thank you.
make a very quick announcement that November 2nd, Zoom talk is going to be the Yakima Police Department Gang Unit talking to us about gangs. And we've got Mick, the trash talking diva, talking about glass collection
You're
on
gonna
the,
like her. She's a firecracker.
and then November 30th is going to be computer issues with Ed Etika from Yakima Networking. So come back, visit us often, and
Okay,
Marci, thank you so much. We really
thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm glad you found me. I don't know how you found me, but I'm glad you found me.
are glad to. Thanks a lot. Take care.
All right.
Bye, everybody. Take care.